Hey friends, strangers, internet. My name is EmilyHanhan. I love colorful makeup and colorful language. I am here today with a collaboration I am so excited about. I'm collaborating with Abby Williamson today. We are doing a video where we're both going to be talking about indie makeup and maybe why it's priced the way it is, and our feelings, our thoughts about that. So first of all, I just want to say Abby is somebody that I have been watching for years now. I vividly remember watching her at a point in time where she had 8,000 subscribers. I may have been watching her before that, but I definitely remember watching at 8,000. And she has grown tremendously over the years, and I've just loved watching her grow as a human on the internet and like as a creator. And I had to give a little shout out to the Half Cousins, because the Half Cousins podcast is totally a way in which I feel like I've been able to connect more with other creators, even before I was making videos on YouTube. So thank you, Georgia and Lacey, because I feel like the Half Cousins was also how I kind of connected a little more with Abby. It's also really late at night, and my cat Tyrion is making just about as much noise as I am in the background. We'll see if he stops. It's also why I'm drinking right now. I was also inspired by Abby to do a little coffee mug drink. Is it an Irish coffee if it's iced? I don't know. It's bourbon and iced coffee and oat milk, and I love it. So now that I have fangirled a little bit about Abby, let me tell you a little bit more about this concept and where it came from. So in Abby's most recent unpopular opinions video, somebody commented or submitted an opinion that indie makeup is it's like charging luxury prices and we're all just kind of falling for it. And in the video, she mentioned that that would be a great additional video idea. And I was like instantly thinking, ooh, I'd like to talk about that too. And oh, I would love to collab with Abby. And then I finally just like got myself together and asked Abby, and she was totally fucking awesome and said yes. So I don't know specifically what Abby's gonna be talking about. Actually, I don't know at all what she's gonna be talking about or the format. I'm probably just as excited to watch her video as y'all are. For me, I'm gonna be doing a get ready with me featuring a lot of my favorite indie brands, and I will have everything that ends up on my face listed and linked in the description box, but I probably won't be talking about that during the actual application. Did I cover all the intro? And if you're over here from Abby's channel, I want to preemptively say thank you so much, and I hope you stick around and enjoy the video. Now let's get into the makeup. Now I decided to do my base and my brows off camera because I don't have anything indie in those realms. I feel like a lot of people that I know, a lot of people within like kind of the beauty community, the little section I'm in, and I guess some of my like friends that are not into makeup or beauty but are just have been around in business classes or have grown up in a small business or any like number of things, I think most of us understand the concept that when you're a smaller business and you're ordering less product, you're going to be charged more per unit. So that's oftentimes the crux of like the whole conversation about indie makeup and why it costs as much, because when you are ABH or Smashbox, you're going to be ordering a large quantity. Even if it seems like it's a small release, there's like a large quantity you're going to be able to order. And that price per item difference can completely make or break your pricing. So, you know, I was doing some research and I was just kind of looking in the realm of single eyeshadows, because that is what a lot of indie brands focus on, and I will talk about that. Yeah, just threw my brush. And I will touch on that in a little bit. So when I was looking at pricing of things, I wanted to dive into the multi-chrome world because in my experience, as somebody who's been really interested in indies over the last probably 4 years, the boom of the multi-chrome, in my opinion, has turned into this moment of a lot of people who were never really into the idea of indie makeup. All of a sudden, they're curious and they want to know more. And then they go onto these websites like Cleona, like JD Glow, Sydney Grace, and there's more people out there making multi-chrome. Those are just who came to mind. And they see $15 to $20 per single shadow, and they're like, what in all hell? And a lot of the attitude that I've seen is like, how dare they? How dare they? And so when I just did some very quick research on a site like Alibaba, you can buy the loose, I don't know if it's the same pigment everyone uses, but you can buy loose multi-chrome pigment. The multi-chrome pigments that you're seeing, I think a lot of people use, they're averaging anywhere from $3.75 to $4 per gram. That is at the scale of buying anywhere from 50 grams and up. Okay, so I thought about this. For, let's say you bought 150 grams of a shadow, you're paying around $3.75 per gram. One of these round pan shadows is often around 2 grams of product. Now, that's not a standard weight. I think that's fairly accurate for what I know, but I could totally be wrong. But let's say that's what it is. So that's about $7.50 for just the raw eyeshadow material. So $7.50 per shadow in raw material. I think it makes complete sense to see that price doubled on their website, because guess what? There's like binders you have to add to press it. There is time, labor involved in pressing. There are the sleeves that the shadow have to go in to be mailed. There's the printed label that goes on the back of the shadow. Then it has to get packaged and shipped. Yes, you get charged for shipping, but a lot of times that shipping charge is literally going to cover the cost of what USPS is charging the brand. So if the brand is doubling the cost, is saying, you know, and I'm not saying this is how they get to their calculation. I'm saying that it kind of looks like, okay, they've doubled the raw material cost to get to their retail cost. That makes sense. A lot of retail, like storefronts, you're tripling that cost. So if it cost a brand $5 to make something, they're at least charging $15, bare minimum. So I think just purely on a raw material front, I think everyone probably understands how, well, you might not understand, but I think that the concept of, you know, charging what the material cost is plus the add-on for time and labor should make sense. That's kind of the baseline of just like, these brands are charging what they need to charge to cover that bare minimum. Now, I also wanted to comment on the fact that a lot of indie brands do kind of focus on single shadows, and that sometimes gets some hate or misunderstanding, especially when it comes to like pricing and kind of when you're used to buying makeup in palettes, comparing the price per shadow cost of singles can feel like it's an absolute like game of insanity. Well, for one, just the general concept of doing single shadows. That is something that I can completely understand why most indie brands start with singles. Because with single shadows, you can buy, you know, 5,000 of an empty pan, because then you can fill it with whatever you want, with any level of assortment that you want. In addition, when you're over there, you know, kind of like mixing and pressing your own shadows, you have control over your like raw materials. So you could buy a bunch of different pigments and then just blend together your own colors, theoretically your own finishes. It's almost, it kind of reminds me of how people talk about Taco Bell, where they're like, it's the same ingredients, it's just mixed different ways. A lot of different eyeshadows are the same ingredients, they're just mixed different ways. So in terms of an indie brand kind of starting out with a focus on singles, it does make a whole lot of sense for me. And I kind of just hope people are like more open to the idea of singles as time goes on, or if they're not open to it, they're at least not like destroying the concept. Because I see a lot of people say like, oh my god, if I tried to like dupe the vibes with a bunch of, let's say, Cindy Grace shadows to replicate this ABH palette, it would be like 1.5 to 2 times the cost. You're kind of missing the point of single shadows, in my opinion. Buying singles just to dupe a palette is not how I like to buy singles. Obviously, I'm a bit of an extreme situation. I love my singles. But when I was first buying them, I was just trying to find things that I didn't have in my collection that I couldn't find. And I think going to a brand like Divina or JD Glow and just picking up a couple of their special shimmers or a couple of something that really get you excited, and learning how to use those and incorporate them within your makeup style, like that to me is the way to kind of introduce yourself to singles. And maybe this sounds kind of whatever, pretentious, but like I think there's a way to get yourself excited about singles if you incorporate them in a way that's not completely budget busting or totally overwhelming. So I guess that's kind of a perspective thing of like, I just wanted to talk about that because indie brands get a lot of shit because people are like, oh, I would never buy, you know, like the Divina blue and green set. It's like 2 or 3 times the cost of the Tarte Icy Betch. It's like, okay, that's totally reasonable if you don't want to buy it because it's too expensive and, you know, it's not worth the investment. But for example, if you saw the Tarte Icy Betch and you were really drawn into like 2 colors, well, you could go buy 2 colors from an indie brand and the cost per shadow is still going to be more expensive, but it's also a practice of like building your makeup collection in a more thoughtful way and in a way that's more exciting to you. For me, even if I have a palette that has 1 or 2 colors I'm really excited by, I don't find myself reaching for those palettes because I feel like I get overwhelmed by the suck. Like if I don't like a lot of what's in a palette, but I like 1 or 2 colors, I'm just like, yeah, but I don't want to deal with the suck. I don't want to deal with that. Like, I just want like the good shit. And for me, that's why I like indies, because if I had a very straightforward look that I wanted to use, you know, because I have this palette I'll use as an example. If I had a very straightforward look that I wanted to use the Modern Renaissance with, but then I wanted a shimmer that was just a little bit more impressive, or, you know, a deepening shade that wasn't in there, I would put them together. I'd put the palette with some singles and then make like magic with those 2 things. So yeah, so I just think in terms of your perspective, like, don't look at a bunch of single shadows as like a way to specifically dupe the vibes with your shopping. Think of it as just a way to like find those little gems, those little missing parts to your collection and add them in. Okay, so we talked about how indie brands oftentimes focus on singles. And then you'll see some brands out there that are doing palettes, and maybe it makes you question, okay, if that brand over there is releasing a palette like every quarter or every month, depending on the brand, why can't a brand that I love or a brand that I'm drawn to, release a palette like that? Or I even feel like a better example is, you see brands release these palettes and they're anywhere from, let's say, $20 to $30. And you're like, oh, that's a good price, that's cool. And then you see a brand like Sydney Grace release a palette and it's $52. And you're just like, I mean, but why are you so expensive? Well, a lot of that goes down to the fact that some of these brands that are marketed as indie and that are releasing these palettes that seem super affordable, they are private labeled. And I'm not going to make the judgment for you whether private label is good or bad, but for me, I don't find those brands and those kinds of shadows quite as special or interesting as the more handmade, hand-pressed kinds of brands. The tricky thing with the whole private label side of it is that a lot of brands are not going to admit that they are private labeling, and I guess that's their prerogative. I'm saying I guess, meaning like I actually guess. I'm not like being shady, like, well, I guess you can just like do that. I don't know. Like if a consumer asked like, is this private label? I don't know if you would have to be honest or if you could just like not answer the question or answer it falsely. So I personally don't find those shadows as exciting. I don't find as much texture variation or color variation because a lot of private label palettes come together by, you get a catalog of colors and different finishes, you pick out what you want, and then they just put it together. And sometimes there's unique art for the cover and sometimes there's not. Like if that's what you want to do for your brand, that's totally cool, but it's not what excites me. There are private label options out there where you can customize a little bit more according to what I've heard, but even then it doesn't make me super excited. And the reason why I just wanted to mention this because, I see people talking about like something like the Enduring Love palette from Sydney Grace, where they developed that and designed that themselves. Like, you're not seeing that color story, that packaging anywhere else. That's something that they put together. And I'm not sponsored, I'm not a shill, literally never gotten PR from any brand, so like I could care less I care as a consumer and as a makeup lover, but for my channel I'm not gonna sit here and like say some bullshit to you. But the reason I'm saying that is just that, if you see a brand doing a palette and you're like, oh, that's a little expensive, just realize that the process to put together a palette for an indie brand is a big undertaking. And while the pricing might fall in line with somebody like ABH, you're getting something that like a small team of people or even one or two people passionately put together. So that goes into kind of my whole feeling about buying indie. It's about supporting people. It's about supporting creative, inventive people. And in the end, having good product is key. Like, I don't want to support an indie brand just to support them. I want to support an indie brand and in exchange get some fucking badass makeup, but I'm also kind of willing to take a little bit more risks with indie brands. Now, if you're sitting there, you know, as an indie brand and you're doing shit, you're releasing crap, I don't want to support that. And I'm not here trying to tell everybody, well, you should support all indie brands because they all deserve your support, even if they're releasing trash garbage. No. But I think that if you are looking at an indie release and maybe you're questioning the price point, but you are interested and you can afford to try something, I guess I just would want to encourage people to like just go for it. I mean, there's so much opportunity out there to research brands when you're first starting them. Look up reviews, look at their tags on Instagram or hashtag their brand, search in Reddit, all of these different things. And the upside to taking a chance on a brand, even with a product that seems a little expensive, is that you're supporting actual people. You're supporting people that are making these products. You're not supporting Procter & Gamble or Estee Lauder or whoever else is owning makeup these days. You're supporting actual people. I generally believe that people are not making makeup these days. Small indie brands. I truly don't believe that small indie brands are making makeup because they just want to make a buck. Sure, there are a lot of bigger brands. There's fashion houses and other brands like that that are diving into makeup because of the monetary opportunities. But I don't think a new or up and coming brand that's releasing stuff that actually like looks good, that people are swatching and reviewing and talking about, I don't think they started this just to like make money, because starting a small business is not a way to make money. Hopefully it leads to that, but from the jump, it's not really the way to make money. The first key thought that came into my mind when I was working on notes for this video is also like the final point I really wanted to make sure, hopefully everyone's still watching and they hear this. And that is like, maybe the real question is not why indie brands are so expensive, but why some other makeup is so cheap. Why is the thought of a brand charging prices that would pay their staff livable wages, fair wages for the work, that might actually give the company enough money to offer benefits to their staff, to cover the cost of living, the rent, the whatever, wherever they're based? Why is the thought of a company charging more to be able to do those things, why does that make people so upset? Now, I realize that for a lot of us, we are also not getting paid livable wages. So when we are trying to put our money towards makeup purchases, I mean, I know for me, I really want to buy indie when it excites me and I can. But when I didn't have as much money and I was shopping in the drugstore, I was shopping in the drugstore. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's like no shame in any of it. But if you have the money, if you have the disposable income, I hope you'll start looking at pricing and think, okay, well, that might have been a little bit more than what I would expect this to be, but this could also be going towards other good things within the company, within the community. I think that too many people expect small businesses to sell their products at a price point that is just covering the raw materials. You know, I think people have this perspective of like, well, as long as you can pay rent, like it's your business, but it's also your passion. That's not sustainable on so many different levels. if you actually ask them to their face, oh, so you want these brands to only charge basically the cost of the goods because they're passionate about this, but you know, they won't have a roof over their head and they won't be able to buy themselves food and they'll never be able to actually hire staff. So the orders will always be slow to come, or there'll always be pre-orders or other issues that come along with that. If you spelled it out to people, I feel like a lot of people would be like, oh no, 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 I don't want that. I want them to be successful and like, and I want them to flourish. And it's like, well, then you're gonna have to pay more. I feel like in this country, we are used to paying very, very little for a lot of things that we should be paying more for. We are way too used to paying very low money for things that should probably cost more. And it has already bitten us in the ass, in my opinion, and I think it will continue to do so. And so here's the thing. I understand questioning brands, questioning business models, questioning pricing is all totally a valid part of being, in my opinion, of being a consumer. But if you do have that disposable income and you do see an indie release that draws you in, but maybe it makes you stop a moment because of the price tag, if you can afford it, I hope that more people will go for it, take that plunge. It's just how Abby rails against Amazon and how Amazon in many ways killed off local bookstores and a lot of small businesses. I think there is a high probability of smaller indie brands getting killed off because mainstream brands are trying to capitalize on some of the aesthetics and the feelings of indie without the heart and the creativity. So yeah, that's some what feels like kind of disorganized thoughts on indie brands, their pricing, the perspective of me as an indie shopper and kind of an indie makeup hype person. I feel like this is just the beginning of a bigger conversation. And of course, if you have any questions about anything that I mentioned, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you don't watch Abby, if you haven't checked out her video, please go watch her video. It's linked in the description box. I highly recommend subscribing because I really do enjoy Abby. And if you are here from Abby's channel, thank you again. Thank you so much. If you did enjoy this video, if you'd like to follow along with more of these colorful shenanigans, I would love for you to subscribe. I also have a Patreon linked in the description box. Thank you so much to all my patrons. If you want to check that out, I would love for you to come over and join us. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Nomnivorous, and thank you for just spending a bit of your day with me. I hope everyone is taking care of themselves. Drink some water, feed yourself, scream into the void, whatever you need to do today. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And hopefully I will see you again real soon. Bye, friends.